California cities, Newport Beach and Orange, voted to oppose the California state sanctuary law. Westminster City, we're told, is in the middle of a closed session right now. We're trying to watch and see if we can get any information on their vote. Also in California, Governor Jerry Brown announcing he will allow an additional 400 National Guard members to deploy, but he insisted doesn't mean the state is actually going to be enforcing or helping to enforce federal immigration laws. So is President Trump starting to win in California? Tonight's panel is here to discuss. Leslie Marshall, Fox News contributor and syndicated radio talk show host. Larry O'Connor, radio host on WMAL in Washington, D.C. and associate opinion editor at Washington Times. And Kurt Schlichter, a senior columnist at townhall.com. Great to have all of you.
Good to be here, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right, Leslie, I'll start with you. You're out there. Is the president winning in California?
You know, Shannon, I think it's funny because
let's start with Leslie.
Sorry, I thought you said Leslie.
Yeah, Leslie.
Okay. I think it's funny that we're even looking at anywhere in the OC, but especially Newport Beach. Newport Beach is an uber-rich Republican enclave of California. It's no surprise that they would be on board with the president being against sanctuary cities. That's not the way the majority of Californians feel, but in these Republican little hotbeds, certainly in the OC and certainly Newport Beach, where they have lower crime, they have more money for their law enforcement, unlike the city of Los Angeles or even the county of Los Angeles. I'm not surprised.
I got to bring in Kurt here. You're out there too, Kurt.
Wow, you know, it's not just Newport Beach, it's also little towns like Los Alamitos and Escondido, the kind of towns which used to be the backbone of California before the middle class up and went off to Texas. Look, I'm very excited about what's happening out here in California. We're finally fighting back. And I'm very excited about this National Guard thing, too. I was in the National Guard in California for about 23 years. I commanded at the platoon, company, battalion, and acting brigade level. So these are my guys, and this is a mission our guys have done. And this is going to stun you. I'm going to give some credit to Jerry Brown because he went back on this mission to the Pentagon. I know, right? He went back on this mission to the Pentagon and said, hey, there's some other things that we can do here, like cover our coast, which is all exposed, and get up in Northern California where we have, real problems with crime and other, some of them illegal aliens. And, they're going to be able to do all that. It's great.
Okay, Larry, I want to bring you in.
Yeah.
This is what Jerry Brown says. Don't think this is going to be what you think it's going to be. He says, let's be crystal clear on the scope of this mission. This will not be a mission to build a new wall. It will not be a mission to round up women and children or detain people escaping violence and seeking a better life. And the California National Guard will not be enforcing federal immigration laws. So what are they going to do, Larry?
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm not going to give Brown any credit here. Last time I saw a Democrat governor defying federal law like this, it was a segregationist standing in a school doorway. Or actually, last time the Democrats really loved defying the federal government, they were protecting slavery. So let's just be clear here. This is nothing to be proud of. And Leslie, listen, I grew up in Newport Beach. I'm in D.C. now, but trust me, this is not B1 Bob Dornan Newport Beach anymore. I've been back home. I believe it's Loretta Sanchez is their congresswoman now. The demographics have changed in Orange County, but here's what's important. These cities, including Escondido down on the border, they're south of Sacramento, hundreds of miles south of Sacramento. They're near the Mexican border, and they are dealing with the crime and the economic impact of illegal immigration. That's why they're pushing back, because they're trying to protect their communities.
All right, quick final word to you, Leslie. We'll wrap up this panel to bring you guys back, and the gentleman will start us off next time, but you wrap us up here.
Okay. Larry, thank you for admitting that we have a blue wave coming here in the state of California with the changing demographics. And by the way, let's talk about one of the problems in California with the sanctuary cities. Some of the people have problems with individuals. For example, even if they have a domestic violence offense, they want those people deported. I'm one of them, by the way. So that's why, again, the devil is in the details with this legislation. But most Californians don't want, like the governor had said, families broken apart. They want drug trafficking, sex trafficking, and high violent criminals to be stopped at our borders. And we in California obviously we are the victims, if you will, of anything that happens with regard to immigration more than any other state in the United States because of the population we have of undocumented workers.
You do. I believe it's the
highest. It's almost like we need a wall.
It's like you have the highest in the country.
No.
Kurt, okay, we'll let you argue about the wall during the commercial and then come back. We have more hot topics for you, panel. Thank you very much.
All right.
In the meantime, 4 chemical weapons attacks this year. In 2018, there have been at least 4 suspected chemical weapons attacks in Syria. The latest last weekend. The World Health Organization says at least 500 people have been treated with symptoms consistent with toxic chemicals. Roughly 70 are reported dead. That is despite former President Obama saying we'd eliminated Syria's chemical weapons program. Listen.
We've eliminated Syria's declared chemical weapons program.
What is true is Assad got rid of his chemical weapons.
We could cut the deal that got 100% of the declared chemical weapons out of Syria.
So let's bring back tonight's panel to discuss. Leslie, Kurt, and Larry. Kurt, I'll start with you because he used the word declared there, and maybe they did get 100% of what was declared. Maybe Syria has made new weapons since then. What do you make of it? Kurt?
Look, yeah. I don't believe a word that John Kerry says. I don't believe a word the Obama administration says. These guys have a track record of deceit and deception to cover up their massive failure in Syria. Bashir Assad is murdering his own people. Obama couldn't do anything about it. It's up to Donald Trump to do it, and Donald Trump will. The Russians know it. They're pulling their ships out of the ports, and Assad is trying to hide his aircraft. It won't work. They're going to get hit, and it's going to hurt.
All right, so former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright on late night TV was asked about this and whether President Trump is right to blame the previous administration for this trouble. Here's how she responded.
No, I don't. I mean, I do wish Barack Obama did put down a red line, and I personally wish that we had followed through on that.
What do you make of that, Leslie?
I agree with her on that, and that's one of the areas I got in trouble with my fellow Dems, and that's one of the reasons I think you guys like having me here is I'm a Democrat, but I'm honest, and this was an area that I thought the president failed. You don't make a threat such as that, put down the red line, and puff out your chest, and then retreat in a sense into the corner, just like President Trump, who was tweeting about a missile attack with Russia. He shouldn't be doing that either, especially if we're not going to be following through with such threats. If I may say something, though, to your point, Kurt, if you don't believe the president, if you don't believe John Kerry, then you don't believe the OPCW, because the OPCW, who was tasked with not only transporting chemical weapons out of Syria on different vessels, Norwegian, Dutch, Icelandic, American, etc., they, in April of 2014, said they had 92%. Then a few months later, they said the 8% remaining. And by July, they were the ones that gave the information to the United States government and our allies on an international level throughout the world that 100% of those chemical weapons have been taken out.
Very quickly,
Larry,
I know you want to respond,
Leslie,
but I don't
believe. Leslie, I don't believe them because I've seen the videos of people dying with symptoms of chemical weapons. Whether it's sarin or mustard or chlorine, those weapons are there. They're being used. That's just a fact, and there's no hiding it. This partly belongs to Obama. If he had enforced the red line, we wouldn't have this problem.
Larry, you get the closing argument tonight.
Yeah, it's actually, frankly, worse than that because, listen, I'm still not convinced that America has a direct interest in this excursion, but as usual, America has to lead an international force to send a message to these bad guys. Here's the problem. There are Russians on the ground right now. When we fire missiles in there, we're going to hit Russian soldiers. This could be a really complicated, messy conflict, and it's one that Trump inherited. And you know why? Because Barack Obama, when he drew that red line that Madeleine Albright was just talking about, that he then ignored and backed off on, he then handed it off to the Russians. That's right. He colluded with the Russians to solve the Syria problem. It gave Russia an opportunity to get a stronghold in that region. And now, if we try to do something against Assad, we're doing something against the Russians also. It's much more escalated thanks to the Obama-Kerry incompetence.
Very complex. There are no easy solutions to this. And as the White House continues to talk to our allies and try to figure out the appropriate response. Leslie, Larry, and Kurt, thank you all very much.
Thank you. Good to be here.